Alright, hello and hang on, let me adjust this real quick. There you go. Hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Love, Money, Rock and Roll. Am I coming through okay? Alright, sweet. Let's get right into it. Where we last left off, a lot of things happened. We found out that our girl next door was apparently spying on us for the Japanese government. We weren't too happy about that. And before we ended it, we had a little run-in with our friend in the KGB arena. So I can see I got my coffee here, I got my water, just in case. Let's get to it. I returned home a bit earlier than expected before dinner, and thus had some time before he meets his rival. This is like right after the little meeting with Irina at I think it was like the bridge. The conversation with Irina at the waterfront left a bad aftertaste. She made me an offer I couldn't quite literally couldn't refuse. What was it? I think I had to like spy on them or something like that, or snitch. I think. I don't know. Something that had to do with getting back at Himitsu's father's operation. I wasn't even worried about myself, as it couldn't get worse for me anyway, except maybe that I had just taken a few steps toward a miserable end. Why did he even ask about Himitsu? They could use her. They could have done so before too, probably, but for whatever reason decided not to. The front door opened with the same sound as usual. It wasn't slow or fast. The way she alone could. While I would regularly slam it without even managing to, just paying no attention. Nico? Mitsu called from the hall. I'm here. She entered the kitchen, gave me a somehow attached look, started taking groceries out of the bag. How are you? Fine, Mitsu replied briefly, her attention focused on cooking. I mean, how's everything with... For the life of me, I couldn't recall what she was going to do after the class. With this... school festival? Yeah, right, school festival. How's that going? Fine, she replied in the same dry tone. It was weird. She didn't seem to be particularly upset in the afternoon. You won't even ask me how my day went? Is there a point? I don't know. You usually ask. And you usually don't reply. Or come up with excuses. I had no retort, as I wasn't ready to tell her about Irina's offer. Would you say I'm wrong? Well, I wouldn't be so harsh. What else did you expect, Nico? Mitsu stopped peeling potatoes and finally looked at me. You accuse me of something I didn't even do, but you hide things all the time yourself. You lie to me. Despite the contents of her words, her tone was relatively calm. I was mostly hurt by the fact that Himitsu had never accused me of telling lies directly before. At least like this. I don't lie to you, and I'm not accusing you of anything. Yeah, right. She sarcastically flung her arms up in the air and returned to peeling potatoes, cutting a solid half of a tuber with each motion. Are you really trying to deceive me? Or just pitying me? Michu switched from Russian to Japanese, something that didn't happen to her often when we were alone. Do you think it's easy for me? Do you think I asked my father to put me in a situation like this? And now it turns out that you don't trust me. And you even seem to have reasons for that. Nico, think about my feelings. You're accusing me of something that isn't even my fault. Not out loud, maybe, but you think it. I didn't want things to turn out like this, and I can't fix them. Do you understand? I was expecting her to start crying, but she continued in a firm and confident tone. Tell me honestly, what's going on? What do you mean? I asked, surprised. You know what? I know you've been hiding something from me. I know that in different circumstances you wouldn't have told me anything. You wouldn't have told me anything at all. Nico, I'm not a little girl anymore. You don't need to protect me. I love you and I want to be with you in happiness and sorrow. There could be no doubt that she was speaking sincerely, and I felt pained and disgusted by the fact that I hadn't told her about the meeting with Irina, and many other things. But, on the other hand, I just couldn't. Just frickin' tell her, you moron! Ugh. I physically wasn't able to. My mouth wouldn't let me do it. All the words were getting stuck in my throat. Maybe I really was too protective of Mitsu, but it was all for her own good. And how would it sound? I was asked to spy on her father and was considering if I should agree? I've already told you everything I know, I replied quietly, lowering my eyes. Oh, that's it then? Mitsu said coldly and grabbed the plate suddenly. Oh shit. That's it? She threw it to the floor, immediately grabbing another one. So that's what all your talk about love amounts to? Why did I ever think you were trying to protect me from something? Maybe you just take me for an idiot and don't want me in your way. Sunshine, that's enough, or don't call her that. I said impolitely. Potently. Might as well be impolitely. Hang on. Okay, I think it just might have been the app. For a second I thought I was losing frames. Nope, I think we're good. My whole body seemed to turn to jelly. I couldn't even find the energy to stand up. That's all you can say? There were no plates left. Mitsu was standing, breathing heavily and looking at me with eyes full of resentment. I really don't blame you for your father, and I reacted like this at first, but, well, because it was too sudden. How do you think I felt? He's my father. Sorry, I babbled. I was disgusted by my sudden indecisiveness and softness, and yeah, you damn right you better be. I see you don't trust me. She took a few steps toward me, but in the end sunk heavily into a chair and turned away. I can't keep this up any longer, Nico. Your parents, this corporation, my father, Caddy. I just want to be with you, but if you don't trust me, if you don't need me, wait, calm down. I need you. In that case, it's a pity you do everything possible to prove the opposite. I stood up and was about to approach her, but Mitsu jumped away immediately. I should go. I hope you'll be able to handle dinner by yourself. But wait! I need to be alone. I decided not to stop her. Well, that went swimmingly. Perhaps that was for the better. If nothing was to tie us together, she'd lose all value in the eyes of the Japanese intelligence and the KGB. Next time I would tell Irina that I wasn't going to spy on anyone. I let the responsibility for my own decisions lie on my shoulders only. I was twisting and turning in my bed, trying to fall asleep to no avail. I was so afraid of what I was so afraid of had finally come to pass. Mitsu finally broke down. And not even because of my attitude toward her, but rather due to my clumsy attempts to protect her. So stupid. So silly and funny, like in a bad tragic comedy. Is that even a word? Or did he just make that up? While I was running back and forth between her and Catherine, not giving a damn about her feelings, everything was normal. What did I do wrong in the end? What? Are you seriously asking that question? Fucking idiot. Just stick with one girl! God! I could feel a lump in my throat. All of my memories of Mitsu, from our childhood days to the most recent time, is passing before my eyes. I felt ashamed to lie to her, but now more than ever, I had confidence in my decision. Let her resent me, stop talking to me, become distant, and forget me. That would be for her own good. Watch this bite him in the ass. Really? News to me. September 22nd. Are you okay? Has always seemed a weird and unnatural question to me. Especially in American movies when a character might get his arm ripped off and his partner, with that expression of genuine concern on his face, would wonder whether that character was doing okay. Couldn't be better, goddammit. But thinking about it, what does okay mean in our lives anyway? You can only define it relatively. For instance, if I had my arm ripped off, at least it wouldn't be my head. Ripped off, it wouldn't be at least my head. So compared to the worst possible situation, I'd be relatively okay. Yesterday I lost Himitsu, but at least I was still alive. So in comparison with the worst situation, I was doing okay. Although who needs an okay like this? I had fallen asleep pretty late, around 4 in the morning, but was woken up by the usual sounds of cooking in the kitchen. Was Smitsu cooking breakfast after everything that happened the day before? Quickly got dressed and ran out of my room. But the person standing at the stove was... Oh, you've gotta be kidding me! Good morning. I was about to wake you up. How did you get in here? I asked gloomily and leaned heavily against the door frame. Come on now. Is that how you're going to start such a wonderful day? It certainly wasn't wonderful for me, and Catherine's presence didn't change that in the slightest. How did you get in? I've been to your place more than once, remember? Nothing has changed since then. Indeed, snaking into the garden from the street wasn't difficult, and neither was opening the door to the kitchen, if no one knew how to. If one knew how to. Katya did. Maybe I should have been worried about burglars, but I had nothing valuable in the house, and it didn't look very interesting from outside. What if I called the police? Go ahead. Would be a good idea after yesterday's slaughter. She smirked, stirring something in the pan. What slaughter? I asked, genuinely surprised. Don't worry. I've already cleaned away the shards. It's just, what are we supposed to get off now? Well, there was no getting out of this. I don't want to talk about it. Of course you don't. She smirked slyly. By the way, but I didn't know you could cook. I tried to change the subject. Just because I've never cooked before? Well, naturally. Well, I couldn't, but I learned how to over the past year. When you're on your own for a while, eating pizza gets dull. Perhaps I would have learned to cook as well if Mitsu went around all the time. So you came, broke into my house, even at an ungodly hour solely to show off your cooking skills. Well, we've known each other for a while. I know you're having a hard time. As if you care. Of course I do. We're friends, aren't we? Katya seemed sincere, but I still couldn't believe her words, so I decided to change the subject a bit. And what if Himitsu came now? Will she? Catherine smiled opaquely. After yesterday's... What is it about... Yeah, whatever! I don't want to talk about this, especially with her, so I just sat silently and waited. The meal I eventually received, something resembling a stew, tasted pretty good. It felt much more Western than what I was used to usually eating. But you couldn't make this sort of thing in half an hour. When exactly did Catherine arrive? It's good. I said, trying to make it sound like as if I were merely being polite. Not any worse than Mitsu's. Why are you starting this all over again? What's wrong with what I said? Nothing. You don't want to talk about her? I don't. I snarled. What? Trouble in paradise? You two had a fight? Honestly, it's none of your business. I looked at Katya and felt nothing. Yes, I was happy for the tasty breakfast and the fact that she had come over, but on the other hand, I would have felt just as comfortable alone. Well, as you wish. You don't need to tell me, but I will find out anyway. From your mom and her spy network? Catherine pulled a long face and stared at her plate. Doesn't feel nice when somebody hits a sore spot, does it? Why do you think it's a sore spot for me? I think you've already discussed it and figured everything out. After the revealed truth about Himitsu's father and the KGB's ultimatum, the whole situation with her mom seemed, if not a stupid misunderstanding, then merely a trifle. Then I understand why you're here even less. And don't tell me that you're just worried about me, for God's sake. Fine, I won't. But what if that's true? I gave Katya a look from under my brows. She looked and behaved absolutely normal. Maybe a little bit more polite, but which in her case, mostly meant less sarcastic. That's true. Thank you. You don't sound sincere. I don't know what to tell you. I wonder what would happen if Himitsu actually came. Look, thank you for the breakfast, and you're kicking me out? She interrupted me flatly. I just need to get ready for school. I can help. I'll handle it. Okay. I'll do the dishes. No need. Just leave them. Don't you think it's at the very least rude to kick me out after I'd been stuck at the stove for 2 goddamn hours? Catherine frowned and finally looked at herself. Do what you want. I went to the bathroom to brush my teeth and wash my face. Then changed to my school uniform and returned to the kitchen. Catherine was sitting in her old seat, looking out to the garden with a bored expression on her face. Dirty dishes were where I had left them. Didn't you want to do the dishes? And you said I didn't need to. I see. Shall we go? She rose gracefully from her chair and walked to the hallway. I was definitely afraid that Himitsu would see us together. But I could just push her out of the house. She obviously wasn't going to leave alone. Looking for something? Catherine asked snidely, seeing me cautiously look around. The meaning of life. Let's go already. I can't even remember the last time we walked to school like this. She had stayed at my place overnight when my parents weren't home, but it only happened like once or twice. Bring back memories? What does? All this. Katya made a pirouette, her skirt dancing along flirtatiously. Although you must have fallen out of habit. Apparently so, I replied briefly in order to avoid continuing this conversation and sinking deeper into the past. Not much has changed here over the years. Catherine was constantly looking around. Was I supposed to? It's only been a year and a half. I finished with a bit of strain. In our times, everything changes at the speed of thought, you know. Why are you doing this? I just thought it sounded nice. No, I mean, why did you come in the morning and cook breakfast? I can't believe it's just because you care about me. I think you need something from me. What could I possibly need from you? Catherine stopped and looked at me in the eyes with a cute smile on her face. I don't know. And don't want to play these games. Well, don't then. Myself, I find them very funny. She immediately turned around and walked a couple steps ahead of me. So, you're not even going to try and deny it, are you? As nasty as it felt to acknowledge it, this punitive honesty was appealing to me. Even a bit arousing. Dude, are you shitting me? This fucking guy. Deny what? Catherine said without turning around. We approached the school and I noticed Michael in the distance. Oh, yeah, that's right. This dude's got a crush on her. Oh, this is not going to be good. So did Katya. Did you know that Michael likes me? She asked, seemingly casually. What? I think he and I would find at least a couple things to talk about. How did you know? Did he? No, we haven't talked yet. It's just easy to see. I noticed it right away. Feminine intuition. You're love buddy already. Katya added flirtatiously. I think it would have been better if I went with one of the other paths, more specifically like Kagome or Ellie. This one just seems... eh. I see. My voice sounded way too unhappy, and deep inside I scolded myself for that. So I'm thinking about what to do with that. What do you think? Oh, I don't know. What? You aren't interested at all? Perhaps you could give me a piece of friendly advice? It's none of my business. Isn't it? She gave me a sly smile and approached a group of girls that I don't know. So she did have friends, or at least acquaintances. I didn't know whether Michael noticed us or not, but I had no desire to talk to him, so I slowed down, waiting until he entered the school building. Catherine showed up in the classroom right before the bell and sat down behind her desk, paying no attention to me. What did she want from me in the end? What was with that performance? Maybe it was some strange sort of revenge? It was hard for me to think about that at the moment, especially with my fight with Himitsu and the whole spy business at the backdrop. Catherine definitely had no intention of leaving me alone, which was beginning to irritate me. God, how quickly can a man's feelings change? Apparently, very quickly, and I'm not a dime. This fucking guy. Only a couple weeks ago, I could only dream about spending this much time with her. And now I'd rather she left me alone. Although I was afraid to admit that even to myself, coming up with stupid excuses like, I have more important things to deal with now. During the break, Michael approached me, and his look implying we were going to have a serious conversation. Hi. Have you got a minute? For you? Always. I tried to preemptively shield myself with sarcasm. I really don't want to start it over again, but you leave me no choice. Today, you and Catherine came to school together, so you noticed us back then. Yeah? So what? Did you just happen to meet on the way, or what? Tell me. You know what I mean. Uh-oh. What's with this, What's with this music? He averted his eyes and looked at me, but then looked at me with the same confidence. You just need to tell me the truth, and I won't come between you two or ruin your relationship. Our relationship? I smirked. Why don't you ask her first whether we're in any kind of a relationship? It looks different from the outside. Oh yeah, she's totally doing this on purpose. How did he always manage to remain so composed and say all this in a calm, even tone? I don't care how it looks to anyone. We're not going to get anywhere like this. I'm not going anywhere. I feel pretty alright here. I said a bit louder than I said a bit louder than I should have, and attracted the attention of the students sitting next to us. What do you need from me in the end? To tell the truth. Are you together or not? He clearly didn't understand or want to understand the hints that there was nothing between us. I was so fed up with all this. So why couldn't I say it out loud? It often happens. You don't do what you need to do. Because of that, you start hating yourself and get depressed. In turn, depression obstructs you from doing what you need to do. A vicious cycle. Anyway, this explanation sounded much better than the thought that I still wasn't able to reject Catherine completely. Oh, don't fuck it. And what if you are? Are you gonna turn away and leave, pretending nothing happened? If you like a girl, why the hell do you need my opinion? Afraid to hurt my feelings? Come on! You're just being hypocritical. You want to make yourself look good so that nobody will think badly of you no matter the outcome? And I still can't understand. What do you want to hear from me? Am I interested in her? Only sexually, I assure you. Want to be whole brothers? Be my guest. This fucking guy. I stopped for a moment to catch my breath and only then realized that the class was gravely silent and everyone was looking at me. What about Catherine? Is she watching all this with a bag of popcorn? Catherine quickly stood up, packed up her bag, and left. Accumulated stress will always find a way out. One way or another. There was nothing surprising about that, but I'd picked the least appropriate moment possible. Michael, I'm sorry. If this dude punches your lights out, I won't be. I don't think I'm the person you should apologize to, he said coldly and returned to his desk. Ran out of the classroom and rushed down the stairs. But Catherine was neither at the lockers nor in the yard. She could be hiding somewhere at the school or have left already. Anyway, now I couldn't find her. An awful thought flashed through my mind that she deserved it because of her behavior today. What did she do wrong exactly? Are you that fucking dense? Make a tasty stew, or merely return to my life? Seriously, what's the IQ of this guy? Because I'm starting to think I'm 2 digits, 2 digits higher than him. The bell for the class reached me at the school gate. I was just standing there trying to figure out how it had come to this. How could my life instantly turn into a play by an amateur Broadway script writer? I don't know about that, but I feel like Tommy Wiseau could probably write something better. Why is this happening to me alone while other people were living their lives normally? Kyosuke, Saya, even Michael. I was ashamed to return to the classroom, but the idea of being alone with myself enticed me even less. Besides, mean looks and whispers behind my back would be a wonderful punishment for me. Lowering my head and mumbling something that sounded like an excuse, I entered the classroom and sat behind my desk. I couldn't say how my classmates reacted to me showing up, as I instantly stared into my notebook and tried to concentrate on the teacher's words. It's a great piece of advice. When you feel down, you should concentrate on work. Get distracted, so to say. Yeah, right. I don't know a single person that actually worked for. How could someone simply silence every thought about the things that constitute the very essence of their existence? Mitsu, Catherine, truth about my parents' death. That was my entire life. If I were to forget it, delete it, scrub it away like a rubber with a typo, and bleh, scrub it away with rubber like a typo and a dictation, what would be left? Yeah, I had no job, and was closest to it was school. But could abstract logarithms, integrals, and biographies of long-dead public figures become more important to me than real problems and real people? Classes had ended a long time ago, and I was just sitting alone in an empty classroom, not thinking about anything in particular. I was too tired of everything. I just couldn't concentrate on anything, and I had no desire to go somewhere or do something. That the students' school became quiet and still, and in this silence, the sound of footsteps coming from the corridor sounded sinister, as if a mortician or a plague doctor were coming for me. The sound was getting louder, but remained monotonous, and every step was accompanied by a dull creaking. Someone massive was approaching. The door opened slowly, and I was ready for anything to come in, holding my breath. But it was just Kyosuke. Still here? He asked in an unusually serious voice. Don't scare me like that, I exclaimed. Well, what did I do? You're walking like death itself. Nick, you're off your rocker. He came closer and sat behind the desk next to mine. I didn't want to come back at first, but then I thought, you could use someone to talk to. About what? Do you think I'm a complete idiot and haven't noticed anything? Even if that were the case, you told the entire class about your problems today. I don't have any, Michael doesn't know when to stop. I don't think it's about him. Or not only about him. Maybe. What do you want from me? I'm just fed up with the situation and all these misunderstandings and omissions. Catherine and I are just friends. Catching Kyosuke's admonishing look, I specified. At the very least, we're not lovers. Then I really don't understand why you're being so stubborn. You'll always have Mitsu-chan. Always? I smirked sadly and gave him a look of contempt. It's not a game, not some A or B choice. Actually, yeah, it is. And apparently, no matter which choice I make, you're still gonna be a fucking idiot. You sure? Maybe it is actually that easy. You just need to choose. What if he was right, and I was wrong? Well, making a choice naturally wasn't easy, but it was definitely the right thing to do. Was it? Was it? By avoiding giving Michael a straight answer, I was postponing my choice as hard as I could. What do you know? But I definitely couldn't confess that to Kyosuke. Sometimes you should just look at the situation objectively and impartially. Hello? Who are you and where's Kyosuke? I shook him by the shoulders. Seriously? Objectively and impartially? How do you even imagine that? Because it's the smart thing to do. He's talking with common sense, which apparently you don't have. I'm just giving you a bit of advice. This is the easiest thing to do. He finally smiled. Ain't that right? Anyway, you could use a distraction. Want to go to an arcade? Yeah, let's go. Even if Kyosuke was right, it's not like I didn't know as much myself. But knowing what's right and proper doesn't then make your decision any easier. We left the arcade when it was already dark. Alright, so what's your advice? In Galaxian, first try to shoot the ones on the sides and make free zones. No, damn it! Well, about that, you're probably asking the wrong person. He scratched the back of his head and smiled sadly. I'm not asking you for love advice. Just tell me what you would do if you were me. I really need an objective opinion, so to say. You said it yourself. Well, I would choose Mitsu, Gyosu replied without any hesitation. Somehow I thought that he would try to deny it and hesitate for a while. Really? You're unusually decisive today. I guess our kids do some good after all. What does it have to do with arcades? I've always been on our side. Really? I don't remember you ever telling me that. Have you ever asked? True enough. Kyosuke's voracious passions for 2D always seem like the last person to talk to about real girls. Never mind. So, why do you think that? I don't know Catherine that well, as you're aware, but I am quite familiar with Himitsu, and I know about the things she's done and keeps doing for you. Is this your way of trying to shame me? No, I'm just stating facts. Am I wrong? Wrong in what sense? Are we going to measure the things she's done for me in kilograms or kilometers? No, god damn it, in feet. Nick, why can't you just agree with something when it's true? I'm not saying you're wrong, just... Then why do you always need these clarifications and clauses? Maybe because this way I feel less guilty. You know, life isn't all black and white like in your manga. You think I don't understand that? At least you have someone to choose from. It wasn't hard for me to continue this conversation, and I really didn't want to upset Kyosuke. To him, all of my problems seemed to just be romantic ones, since he didn't even know a fraction of the truth. I wonder how I would have acted if he was right. My parents hadn't been killed but really died in a car accident. If Mitsu's father hadn't been spying on me, or Catherine's mother was just a diplomat. In his view, that's what my life was. 1.5 years ago, that was exactly the case. And I didn't choose Catherine without hesitation back then. Well, I guess that's enough for today. So, I stretched my hand out to him. Will you come to school tomorrow? I will. We said a warm goodbye and I headed home. The lights were on in my house. I froze, thinking that Himitsu could be there, and I tried to hold back the warm feeling in my chest. I slowly entered the yard and opened the front door with my key. However, I didn't find her shoes in the hall. I didn't even know why I paid attention to that, but my heart skipped a beat. She couldn't have come to be wearing slippers, could she? Trying not to make any noise, I sneaked into the kitchen. You again? This bitch. Oh, what did it say? Catherine looked at me oddly and recrossed her legs. I see you're expecting someone else. It's more like I wasn't expecting to see you. Sorry, I decided not to cook dinner since you didn't seem to enjoy breakfast. She smirked and fidgeted with the fork and the box of instant noodles before her. Still not a fan of chopsticks? I was wondering if you'd come alone or not. What does that have to do with anything? I was about to get angry, but immediately remembered my behavior at school and felt dejected. Look, I'm sorry for everything I said today. That's not what I really think. Oh, of course it is. I understand you're having a rough time and getting a little jumpy. She didn't say anything that wasn't normal for her, but this time it really got to me. So why have you come then? Especially after what I've done? Did you think I would hide in the deepest hole I could find, cry, pity myself, and curse you? Maybe it would even be appropriate considering the situation, but why would I do that? So instead you decided to come here? Because that's definitely the more logical move. I approached the fridge, opened it, but found nothing, and just poured some tap water into a glass. It's not about me at all. What is it about then? Himitsu. What about her? I grew cautious instantly. I heard my mom talking on the phone. Katya smiled, but was clearly fidgeting in the chair. Mitsu's father works for Japanese intelligence and spies on you. I wanted to tell you in the morning, but couldn't find the courage. Are you going to say anything? I kept looking at her expectantly, but a bit vacantly at the same time. I was wondering where your sarcasm goes when you start talking about serious things. Did you know that chameleons can't change their hue in their sleep and always remain the same color? Nick, I'm serious. Then maybe you'll tell something I don't already know. So you... She stood up and came closer. How can you talk with her after that? Don't worry. We no longer talk. For now, at least. How long have you known? For some time, I replied evasively. So it turned out that Catherine came and told me everything herself, unlike Himitsu, who confessed only when I forced her to. And this made the burden on my heart even heavier. That's just like you. What exactly? That I trust the only person close to me who's never betrayed me before? That's what you think. She whispered, and I paid no attention and kept attacking her. So it's weird that I'm looking for support from anyone at all when I'm besieged on all sides, isn't it? By Himitsu and you and the others? I wasn't shouting. Shouting. What? What? I wasn't shouting, but Catherine looked frightened. That's so strange for normal people. Is that what you think? Any normal person would have long offed himself in my place. Or tell me what I gotta do, and I'll do it. And what are you accusing Himitsu of? Do you think she works for Japanese intelligence? It just so happened the stars aligned like this. Everything in my life is fucked by default. So what's so surprising about that? Katya was quiet, but after these words, straightened up and seemed to become as tall as me. You fucked it all up again, Nick. First you lost me and now apparently her. And what do you blame? The stars? What? Her words surprised me so much I staggered back and hit the sink behind me. What did I do wrong? You always blamed someone else. Me, Himitsu, others. What others? There's only 2 of us here. And Himitsu's in the house across the street. You know full well you 2 aren't my only problem. I turned away to avoid looking her in the eye. And you will never find a solution if you keep waving everyone away. I'm such an idiot to have come here, to think that you could still be helped. And now even when someone spits in your eye, you just say it's rain? But I must say, you 2 deserve each other. I felt a strong need to say something, come up with an objection, but I had no strength. It felt as if her words drained me to the last bits of my will to live. I just don't know what to do. I noticed as much. I'm so tired of this game, this playing emotional ping pong. You become sarcastic, I retaliate. I snap at you and you get pissed. Catherine didn't respond, but clearly grew embarrassed. Well, I guess it's my turn to say, that's life. But everything could be different. And just this very morning, I was absolutely sure that I had no feelings for her. And now, I didn't know. Of course, but it's not. And looking for someone to blame won't do any good. I'm not looking for anyone to blame, but thanks for telling me. Did your mom tell you anything else? No, nothing else, she replied after a short pause. But I'd say this already more than enough. In any case, I told you what I wanted to, and I have nothing else to say, which means I have nothing else to do here. So long. I saw her to the door. If something happens, you know where to find me, she said as a farewell. Why did she need to say that? To leave me with a foolish hope, or to keep me on a short leash? Knowing you, probably both. I looked out into the street and spent a long time staring at the light in Himitsu's room. Catherine didn't tell me anything new, but brought unbelievable pain with her stupid, unnecessary, inappropriate honesty. And why was she so willing to tell me everything except for what really mattered? I watched TV until late at night and trying to get rid of the thoughts of ditching everything and joining a monastery. There was nowhere near this much drama compared to, like, Everlasting Summer. I think probably mostly because there's twice as many romance paths. Why do different people like different colors? Freud and Lucier, am I saying that right? Lucier? Most definitely had their opinions on that. But I had always struggled to make a clear choice. Sometimes my favorite color would be blue or violet. I used to hate yellow, and my childhood preference was white. Of course, there are strictly specific explanations for the matter, but in our everyday life we are used to more basic interpretations. Red symbolizes unbridled fervor of fire, blue epitomizes the serenity of the clear summer sky, while black reminds us of the dusty shrouds and gloomy vaults of a Gothic church. I wasn't sure which colors I would associate with Catherine and Himitsu, but in my memories their smiles used the same palette. The sound of the TV woke me up, and with some effort I blew my nose. The night wind had made it pretty stuffy. Due to the uncomfortable position, my back hurt, making the awakening even less enjoyable. I know that feeling. On the screen, chipper and overly smiley, news anchors were wishing a good morning to all the inhabitants of Tokyo. They had it easier, of course. These programs are usually pre-recorded, and now they were peacefully sleeping in their cozy beds. Right after the fake smiles and tons of face powder came a cooking show. Spend just 5 minutes and make yourself happy with a tasty, healthy breakfast. Professional chef with more than 20 years of experience was shouting, skillfully filleting of fish and slicing vegetables. Yeah, right. I wouldn't be able to cook anything like that in even 3 hours. With or without all the ingredients. Although a dead mouse, a couple dozen cockroaches, and some soy sauce would make an undoubtedly higher protein. Would make for an undoubtedly higher protein, though probably not as tasty meal than the one prepared by that TV chef. Having weighed up all the cons and failed to find any pros, I got dressed and walked to school. The No, it would just be all those like rations that Snake didn't like in Metal Gear Solid 3. I had no desire to skip class since I had nothing else to do in the morning. By skipping breakfast, I managed to find some time to drop by a shop and buy a couple chocolate bars. Really? You can find yourself some like pastries or something? This fucking guy. Could have been fine with a calorie, mate. I wanted to go to my favorite ramen place as well, but after counting the money in my wallet, I abandoned the idea. And I still had a week before the end of the month. At school, everything seemed normal. Joyful and enthusiastic Kyosuke, Michael with his book, and Catherine, who was expressly ignoring my presence. Everyone seemed to have forgotten about my behavior yesterday. Or merely pretended to, keeping appearances. In any case, I didn't feel like an exile. No more than usual. Not that anybody ever paid much attention to me. I had to admit, I was a little scared of the derogatory looks and whispers behind my back on the way to school. But life went on as usual, not noticing me and my problems. During the second class, a note landed on my desk. Come to the roof at lunch. It was written in Japanese. Handwriting looked familiar, but it definitely wasn't Katya's. It better be Himitsu's. I was even kind of happy to receive the note, since I was starting to get bored. Since this is a thing too, huh? Now the absence of adrenaline equaled boredom to me. During the long break, I went to the roof, waving Kyosuke away as he offered to have lunch together. However, there was nobody there. Apparently, I was too early. Was what I thought as I sat on the bench preparing to wait for the author of the note. The door soon opened and Kagome jumped into the arms of the unfriendly autumn wind. Well, yeah, I should have expected that, I muttered. What are you mumbling there? Kagome asked me in an intimidating tone, coming closer. I want to clarify something, just in case. Did you write the note? Yes. She replied briefly and sat next to me. Right. I realized why the handwriting looked familiar to me. Kagome was class rep and would constantly write things on the blackboard. We seem to be meeting each other a bit too often these days. You're in no position to make jokes. Well, what else can I do? You're in danger, don't you understand? In danger. I've managed to uncover something else. The father of your red-headed girlfriend works for the Japanese intelligence, and he may be somehow related to my father's disappearance. God damn it, does everyone actually know more than I do about my own life? I exclaimed and flung my arms into the air. Doesn't seem like it's news to you. She squinted her eyes and immediately asked a question. How did you learn that? I have my own sources. Kagome responded unsurely and turned away and shivered from the strong wind. Here. I stood up, took my jacket off, and tried to put it over his shoulders. What are you doing? She immediately jumped from the bench and ran a few feet away. Just trying to act like a gentleman since you trust me. I mean, you've told me so much important information already. Kagome calmed down a bit, but didn't come closer. At this point, I mean, I did roll on Kagome. So if it actually does end up with this, I would be fine with it. But knowing this asshole, he's gonna fuck it up somehow. It's because I still hope that you're a reasonable guy. Besides, we're in a similar situation, so I want to believe that you'll act reasonably. Oh, he is definitely not a Lothario. Not even close. I have to say, though, that so far you've been as useful as a dug-up corpse. Well, I'm sorry for not knowing anything else. And at this point, it was mostly the truth. And why do you think I should blindly trust you? Because I have no reason to lie to you. I'm just looking for my father. Oh, sure, he matches the definition, but his choices and it's kind of begs to differ. I've always heard it used as a Don Juan. That one I'm not too familiar with. I didn't reply, but her words made me feel guilty. After all, Kagome, despite her rather complicated personality, had opened up to me and relied on me to some extent. You're right. Sorry. Is there anything else you know? And how do you even know about Himitsu's father? I've told you enough already, and you seem clearly unsurprised by it. Man who behaves selflessly and irresponsibly in his sexual relationships with women. I mean, it's not exactly real Saiba, but... I'm just tired of surprises. I smiled idiotically. But I would like to know more about your sources. Tit for tat. I have nothing to offer in return. It's not like this is a card game. If you were me, wouldn't you want to know everything? Are you so sure it's easier to be you than me? No, but that doesn't change anything. Unlike you, I'm trying to do something. I've already told you everything I know, and how I found out isn't important. Just for your information, a one-sided relationship like this can't last long. At least she's got some sense in her. Oh, so we have a relationship now? Asshole! There it is. Kagome hissed, and I was left alone. Way to go, jackass. I seem to remember that Himitsu once said that I should change my attitude toward other people. Even though I started to behave differently with her, and maybe to some extent the cavern, others remained of as little interest to me as before. But Iwamura could have become a useful ally. Next time, if there was a next time, I'd have to treat her with more respect. I came across Michael at the entrance to the classroom. He looked at me coldly, but said nothing. It's not like he had to say anything. No one would show it openly, but everyone, except probably Kyosuke, considered me a social pariah. Or maybe I'd just become a persona non grata, since I'd never really tried to change my caste, deeming it impossible. I know how to read. There was absolutely no way I could keep being in their company. I quickly packed my bag with my eyes lowered and walked out of the classroom. The bell reached me in the schoolyard, and deep inside I felt sad and for some reason even disgusted. I guess I'd never really given the thought to the fact that on weekday afternoons, the streets would be populated by totally different people than in the evenings. Children and teenagers were studying while adults were mostly at work. But pensioners of all ages, mothers with their strollers, all kinds of couriers and delivery boys crawled out of their homes between 9 and 6 o'clock to enjoy the still warm autumn sun. So they would be replaced by office workers in their identical gray suits. Oh, soon they would be. Children who couldn't wait to have some fun, and exhausted factory workers. But for now, Tokyo belonged fully to that nice, motley crowd. I slowed down to catch a few more smiles from strangers passing me, They had a calming effect on me. In the end, some people were capable of not only drowning in their problems, but also bringing some happiness in the world, sharing their good mood with others. Even if, in reality, things were very different, and it was just a sign of politeness. My foot's falling asleep. I came home, kicked off my boots, and walked into the kitchen. The TV was still on, showing a program for housewares. Household Secrets. Mitsu probably watched it often. At first I thought the ring of the doorbell was just part of the show. Then I quickly realized that wasn't the case and opened the door. Oh shit. Ryunosuke was standing at my doorstep. Physically fit as focused as always, and with a cold look in his eyes and abrupt military precise gestures. How come I never figured out he wasn't just a simple government employer? Ryunosuke? I greeted him briefly and slightly lowered my head. May I come in? Sure. I walked him to the kitchen and offered a chair. Nikolai, I respect you. So I'm not going to pretend or put on an act here. I think you've long realized what's going on. You become very interesting to the KGB lately. That explains a lot. I froze in place. I hoped you didn't know that you just dropped them on him in the village. I'm not aware of how much you know, but it is in your best interest to tell me everything here and now. What I know, I said quietly. So this was the person I'd known half my life. Not only had he been lying abjectly to my parents and me for so many years, he also managed to drag his own daughter into this. Oh, I know enough. Let me tell you a story. About a nice neighbor who pretends to be a family friend, about how he's willing, without hesitation, to betray anyone on command. For him, the ends justifies any means, and there are no moral boundaries. He'll even use his own daughter to accomplish his goals. Any means, right, Ryunosuke? Am I right? I snapped, but I couldn't feel any particular danger coming from him. I was, at least to a degree, confident that he hadn't come to kill me. That's your point of view. You're entitled to it. But there are many others. However, Nikolai should calm down. That would be better for everyone. His impenetrable seriousness was more frightening than all of Irina's words combined. Is that a threat? For now, it's a warning. I hope I'm not mistaken about you, and I won't need to deploy methods that are more appropriate for stupid scum. His arrogance stung. There was something of Japanese militarism in him. And still, I was scared and simply couldn't hide it. Nikolai, I want to help you, no matter how crazy it may sound to you. I have helped you before over many years, and I've been doing things that go beyond the scope of my responsibilities. And even things that violated direct orders. He added in a quieter voice. I've done things you haven't a clue about. Are you talking about my parents? I smirked. Believe me, I have nothing to do with what happened to them. Of course you don't. I realize that you have no reason to trust me, but this is a dangerous game you're playing, albeit against your will. You must have realized that there are many players in this game, so I will say once again, I have nothing to do with your parents' death. Mitsu's father seemed to speak genuinely, but I caught myself thinking that during the entire conversation his facial expression had barely changed. It doesn't matter what I think, right? Then why'd you come here at all? Finally, he knitted his brows and said quietly, I need to know everything you know. If I knew something, I'd gladly tell you. You have my word. I'm so fucking fed up with your game. I slapped my neck with my palm, showing how fed up I was. Slap my neck with my palm? Who does that? So if I had the chance to do something that would make you all leave me be, I believe you. He interrupted me and suddenly smiled. And that's... Jesus Christ, chicken. Really? And that's it? Yes. Is there anything else you want to discuss? What happens now? Do you? I don't know. However, you must realize that after everything that's happened, you better keep away from my daughter. How? But... I mumbled impotently. You will. Yonosuke stood up and left. When the door closed behind him, I sank exhaustedly to the chair. Of course, arguing with him would be pointless and risky, and besides, what could I say? It's not like Himitsu wanted to see me. But that was only for now. In the end, she'd definitely come. Wouldn't she? And what did he mean by I don't know? That I didn't have to fear Japanese intelligence anymore? Or that everything was over for me? No. If that were the case, he would have warned me about Himitsu. He wouldn't have warned me about Himitsu. I was shattered and crushed and, most importantly, humiliated. For the first time, Irina could threaten me all she wanted, but she didn't have any aces up her sleeve. Yonosuke had Himitsu, and he played his card brilliantly, breaking my will and bringing me to my knees in a couple minutes. Bringing me to my knees in a couple of minutes. If I had anything to tell him, I would have done it immediately, without hesitation. Ichinose? It didn't seem like they were really interested in him. My conversations with Irina or Kagome? They were, in the end, not very informative. I didn't know anything except that... But why? Why was it so easy? The answer to this question was becoming more and more obvious. I couldn't stay home alone now. If something happens, you know where to find me. And there I was, dialing that cherished number again. It was quite early, but maybe she was at home. After a few beeps, somebody eventually responded. Are you seriously doing this, dude? Hello? Hi, it's me. Catherine didn't reply. You're already back from school? And silence again. What was I trying to achieve by stating facts? I summoned all my courage and said, You said that I would know where to find you. I guess I have. In the park, in an hour. Katja replied briefly and hung up. Everything seemed to have worked maybe too easily. Despite my efforts, I didn't manage to arrive before Catherine. She was already waiting for me there. Her house was much closer to the park. Catch your breath first. She smiled condescendingly and pointed at a bench. We sat down. Not a day passed. I'm sorry if I distracted you from something important. I always have time for you. Besides, it's clear something's happened. When I called Catherine, I hadn't figured out what I was going to tell her. It was just a whim and a lack of other options. I looked at her with a plea in my eyes, as if hoping she'd guess it all herself, and I wouldn't have to lie or worse, tell her everything in detail. Himitsu? Yes, we had a fight. Not that it's the first time, but this time it's serious. You talked to her after everything I've told you, although you already knew. Yeah. Unlike Himitsu, I hadn't promised not to lie to Catherine, and she didn't have to know what Yonosuke had told me. My life doesn't change much. That's for sure. But why am I here? Well, I had even less desire to say that I just felt lonely, and that Kyosuke wouldn't have made for good company here. Although, even if I had a choice, would I have called someone else? Yes! Although, even though her dad did say to stay away from her. I just don't want to be alone. You get used to it. It's not quick and easy, but eventually you get used to it. She got a yellowish leaf flying in the air, and attentively, as if studying it, spun it in her fingers. I have a lot of experience in terms of loneliness. Katya, you're unteachable. What? How many times have I asked you not to call me Katya? But you never meant it. See, that's your problem. You always think everything in life is a game. I don't think anything like that. And even if it is a game, it's not one you can win. Although I'm glad you called. Didn't think it would happen so soon. So she didn't doubt that call at some point. And I'm glad you finally realized what she is. I replied nothing and lowered my head in order to avoid looking her in the eye. No, I partially agree with Catherine's opinion on Himitsu, but there was still nothing I could do. Even if she hadn't known about her father's real job, even if she hadn't wanted to betray me or anything, all of this had happened already. And nothing could change the fact that she had been lying to me, even if not for long. I can understand why Himitsu treats you like she does, but you... What has she done to you? Catherine grew embarrassed and immediately tensed up. It isn't what she's done to you, isn't it? Isn't what she's done to you enough? Even if we're not together anymore, it doesn't mean that. She clicked her tongue and raised her voice even more. It's a pity that you don't realize it yourself. But I did. Did you? Did you? I understood that Himitsu was dedicating herself wholeheartedly to me, and yet I couldn't forgive her for a single stupid mistake. And neither could I forget about the skeletons in her closet. If not hers, then her father's. The plates of the scales were swaying back and forth. And then there was Catherine, whose intentions I hadn't understood at all for a while now. Sometimes I felt ashamed for being so spineless. You have your circumstances. You've said as much too. Maybe I have. Catherine smiled sadly, torturing the poor leaf. Winter is coming. You like winter? I think your surname. You know, I feel the same about all 4 seasons. Well, what about Christmas? New Year's? What would you like to get as a gift from Santa Claus? A one-way ticket from here. 1 ticket? Catherine tilted her head and her eyes flashed. Do you want to talk about this now? What about the destination? Isn't that important? I tried to smooth out the awkwardness. To the moon. We're still sitting here talking about nothing. And that was exactly what I needed. So you're gonna be the first person on the moon. Hey. Catherine gently nudged me in the side. Well, everyone knows Stanley Kubrick faked the Apollo landing. Are you asking for another Caribbean crisis? This time the missiles will be at your coast. Knowing the Japanese, I wouldn't be surprised. This is all bad, isn't it? Of course it is. I look at you and Himitsu. I see no differences. Borders, nations. Maybe that's the case in a perfect world, but I would prefer to have no differences somewhere away from here. Have you ever read Heinlein? No. Why? Nothing. I just think you'd like his books. Your whole world really is science fiction, except there's no science in it. Mitsu had told me almost the same once. I've heard that somewhere before. See? What about you? You don't even have hobbies. Not for lack of desire, she replied, offended by my words. What do you mean? When you need to move all the time? I never told you. Even in the US, we kept moving around the country every couple months. It's like I'm 7 years old and can't be left alone. Or at least with my grandma. I didn't know. Good, that you didn't. There's nothing interesting about that. Catherine stood up and smiled too nicely and gave me a hand. Let's go. I'm cold. Where? I'd like to eat something. You? Can do. Cafe? Let's go to your place. No! 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 Do not do that! Do not do that! But I have nothing to eat at home. Should we order something? I replied after a short pause. Why all of a sudden? I'll cook. We just need to drop by a store on the way. Alright, let's go. Why? This fucking guy. Whatever. This is your fucking grave. I don't care anymore. Catherine spent a long time meticulously choosing groceries. I would sometimes go shopping with Himitsu and always thought of it as a routine, but now I was in awe. Catherine and I had known each other for a while, but what have we been doing usually? Yeah, that. And other dumb stuff that couples in love always do. Even now, little changed. We're fighting and scolding each other, a rather trivial thing to do for two people who had feelings for each other. My relationships with Catherine and with Himitsu were as different from each other as a melodrama about school love and a family sitcom. Besides, mere infatuation isn't enough. A really strong bond is formed through everyday, mundane moments. And it seemed as normal for me to do this with Himitsu, as felt new with Catherine. However, there was something else. At first, all this daily stuff with a person you love creates a misleading feeling of intimacy, and that's when you start to imagine that you are like a family now, will never leave each other. Hopefully, the other person is of the same opinion. And then any unexpected issues will be unexpected for both of you. However, if that isn't the case, the first problem you run into will become a long-awaited excuse for them. Katya wanted to take some lettuce, while I had a preference for Chinese cabbage. Did it really matter? In order to avoid any disputes, I relented immediately, but it made me think. It was almost evening when we reached home. I didn't mean to imply anything, but isn't this a bit much? I demonstratively raised the bags in my hands that were indeed quite heavy. Luckily, Catherine flatly refused to take my money and paid for everything. I wasn't even sure if I had enough money for all that. Are you unhappy about something? Yeah, it just feels like you're going to cook for a whole regiment. Maybe I am. She smiled mysteriously and entered the yard. While Catherine was cooking, I sat in front of the TV and started to think. I could hardly expect Himitsu to visit, but if she did, It would be quite difficult to explain all this to her. This sense of intimacy with Katya was growing stronger, as if that was exactly what she was trying to accomplish. Look, thank you, really. Catherine stopped cooking and looked at me, confused. I really need some support right now. And someone close around. I wanted to add that, but help myself back. Happy to help. No, I'm serious. Well, so am I. The dinner was surprisingly delicious. Hamburgers and french fries. Damn it, dude. You are making me hungry. You know, I don't eat this stuff often. Fast food is one thing, but it can't compare to this. I guess it adds at least some variety to your menu then. She was clearly hinting at Himitsu's cooking, but I didn't reply, busy consuming the burger. To be frank, I was quite skeptical when you said you could cook. What about yesterday's breakfast? Well, sometimes even pigs fly. Catherine frowned. That's not nice, you know. I know, right? If he didn't do that, he is not people. And I thought it sounded, quite like her in the spirit of our recent conversations. Sorry. Luckily for you, you won't have to eat it all the time. I think Himitsu will soon. She didn't finish the phrase and suddenly quickly looked at the clock. Late for something? I need to call my mom. The question why was on the tip of my tongue, but I restrained myself. Go ahead. You know where the phone is. Catherine talked quietly and I wasn't really trying to listen. At the moment, I was more concerned with how to act with her going forward. Sorry that took so long. It was maybe a couple minutes. No worries. She looked a bit anxious. Is everything alright? Stupid question. Why do people always ask it? And most importantly, what answer do you expect to hear? I know what you mean. Gets to me too. It's just habit. I smiled apologetically. Let me wash the dishes. She started to hectically collect the dishes from the table. Well, okay. I returned to the TV. Catherine started to wash the dishes, doing it very slowly, deliberately slowly. What's on the TV? Eventually, she finished and sat next to me. Dangerously close. Just some garbage. But Katya Katya was a rather straightforward girl and usually preferred to talk directly rather than trouble herself with hints. I, on the other hand, knew that in such a situation, I was fully at her mercy. This fucking guy. If she moved any closer. I'll be right back. I stood up and walked out of the kitchen without looking back. If not for Himitsu. How would I be acting right now if we hadn't fought? And what would I have done a week or two ago? Apparently I wouldn't have any qualms of conscience, and that was exactly what was stopping me at this moment. What do we really fear the most? To be caught with a lover in bed? Or that our own sense of guilt will always be there, making itself known when we look into the eyes of the person we love? The funniest thing was that I felt guilty toward Himitsu even though we formally weren't in any kind of relationship. And now she wasn't talking to me at all. My dignity rebelled at last. I stopped by the toilet for show and then immediately returned to the TV. No tilt allowed. Thank you for the follow. Welcome. Did the thing not go off? I didn't hear it. I don't think that thing still fixed itself. Frick. I need to fix that. Anyways. Oh, you are. So I guess you are familiar with this this visual novel. Please, no spoilers, by the way. If you do. There was some sort of animal show on the screen. I don't understand anything. Not a word. Katya said merrily, staring at the screen. What do you mean? Well, they use special terms, names. Yeah, I guess you don't know them in English either? A little bird with a giant red cap was sitting on a bench, looking important. Maybe? It's quite late already. For what? Shouldn't you go home? No. Catherine turned to me and smiled meaningfully. Are you kicking me out? It's just that your hints. I'm not trying to hit on anything. You can make me a bed in this room. I've already warned my mom. So that's why she was calling her mother. Why did it take me until now to realize that... Oh, wait. Why did it take me until now to notice that she was in her school uniform? Katya, what is this all about? I'm just tired and feel too lazy to go home. No more than that. It's just you seeing hidden meanings and everything. I looked at the clock. It wasn't that late. If this is another game or joke of yours, if I wanted something, I would have told you. I guess he was right about that. Well, it's your call. Oh no, I have a bad feeling about this. I was lying in my bed and couldn't close my eyes. Mostly because of the fact that Catherine was sleeping in the other room. Or was she? She could easily come in the middle of the night and lie next to me. She'd get cold, or scared, or lonely. She would find a reason, come up with an excuse, and in the morning I would end up the one to blame anyway. But even more than that, I was terrified by my own desires, as you should be. I would have never called myself a masochist, but in our relationship, she was definitely the sadist. The silence of the night felt oppressive. I walked through the house trying to avoid the kitchen and closed all the doors from the inside. God spare me if Himitsu decided to come in the morning. Having locked and deadbolt all the doors, I finally managed to fall asleep. Really? You're gonna give me a loading screen? Nothing's gonna happen? Oh, something's definitely gonna happen in the morning. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Okay. Who here has Murphy in their name? I don't think that in my circumstances the wording was that important, but I still wouldn't say that something just went wrong that morning. That would be quite an understatement. Uh-oh. was woken up by shouting in the kitchen. I jumped up and dashed to the source of the noise with only my underpants on. Son of a bitch! Catherine and Himitsu were standing in the middle of the room and going at each other at max volume. You could at least put some clothes on? Katja smirked. Yeah, sorry. I replied automatically and returned to my bedroom. Nico! Mitsu's angry voice reached me. I quickly put my shirt and pants on and turned to the battlefield. Nico, what is she doing here? Early in the morning, too. Nothing, really. You don't have to make excuses to her. I'll show you excuses. Mitsu was about to throw herself at Catherine and I had to grab her by the arms. It's your own fault. Nico, let me go! I will when you calm down. How can I calm down when she... Mitsu was choking on her own fury, and it was scaring me. I couldn't remember ever seeing her like this. Still smiling, bitch? She kept trying to break free, baring her teeth at Catherine like an animal. How's it feel to be such an unfeeling piece of shit, huh? No idea. How does it? You take what you haven't earned, what you don't deserve. Sunshine, that's enough. Don't call me that! Yeah, please, don't call her that. You have no right to no position, no earning to ever call her that name. Plus, it doesn't suit you, dude. Let them fight. Mitsu choked on her anger. Nico, just tell me one thing. Did you two fuck? What if we did? I'm not talking to you. No, we didn't. My voice was trembling and I couldn't understand why. After all, I was telling the truth. Catherine kept smirking, my uncertainty seeming to entertain her even more. Nico, stop lying! I'm not! I finally declared with confidence. But even if nothing happened between Catherine and me, was Mitsu going to believe it? And what was I supposed to do? I decided I wasn't going to spy on her father, and he stated clearly yesterday that he didn't want to see Himitsu around me. Nico, I came here just for you. Even after my dad warned me not to talk to you anymore. Exactly. She couldn't just throw me out of her life, and so would keep sinking even deeper into my problems. And jeopardize herself more and more. I'd hoped we would talk and make up, that you would understand. She stopped fighting me, but was still breathing heavily. But as soon as I left you alone, you immediately ran to her? So that's what all your problems and words of love are worth? Words of love? Catherine looked as if she weren't in the audience, and Catherine looked as if she were in the audience of a comedy show. He has gotten better at phrasing those in the past couple years, I wonder. Or has he gotten better? Shut up, bitch! It's all because of you. If you were never in our lives, but I am. In his life. And moreover, I never lied to Nick. You? Mitsu burst into deep, dull sobs, and I finally released her. Now overwhelmed by emotion, she might do something stupid and harm not only me, but also herself. For example, she could tell her father something she shouldn't. So it would be better if we didn't communicate any longer. Mitsu, you need to calm down. Go home, I said quietly. What? Me? Home? What about her? Go home, Mitsu. Repeated quietly as before. As quietly as before. Nico, she pleaded, but I just kept staring at the floor without saying a word. So that's how it is. She burst into tears and ran away. God dang it, this bitch. God damn it, Catherine. Everything was going so well. If you need my opinion, I'd say you did the right thing. How exactly did you come in if I locked all the doors from inside at night? I opened the door for her. Catherine replied calmly. A lump of burning resentment swelled in my throat. So, you set the whole thing up, I said through clenched teeth. Even if I did, what does it change? Is this chick like chaos? Because it feels like she is. Catherine frowned and gave me a serious look. Oh, come on. Before you unleash your righteous wrath, let me tell you something about your innocent Himitsu. At the time, I found it hard to tell you everything right away, so I decided to ask her for advice first. Catherine pursed her lips and looked away. If only I knew she was such a... whatever. She pulled herself together and continued. Mom had told me that we had to leave, and of course I was glad and even happy. Except there was you. My heart started to beat faster. I just didn't have a choice, understand? Even if I wanted to stay. I simply needed to tell you everything, but, you know, I'm not good at this type of stuff. So I wanted to discuss it with her, with the person who knows you best. And what did I get in return? Well, what? Don't act like you don't understand. You started this. Be so kind to see it to the end. That's what she was waiting for. If I hadn't left that time, she would have found another excuse. So, all of this is your revenge? Katya turned to me abruptly and made me feel guilty with a single look. She doesn't deserve the honor. I just wanted to show you her real face. I hadn't experienced such frankness from Catherine, especially after such a long time. But at the same time, I still couldn't figure out what Himitsu had said to her. I understand that you don't have the best relationship with her. Maybe things weren't great back then either, but you had to have expected this kind of reaction. Just because you're also a girl and know all this on a much more sophisticated level than me. So you really don't understand? Apparently not. Yeah, you're gonna have to. He is that dense. Yeah, of course. What did I even expect? I don't know what you're getting at, but it doesn't excuse you in the slightest. Our relationship is worse than ever anyway. I should have known. I grasped my head and thrashed back and forth. Leave, please. Now you're kicking me out too? Just leave. I didn't raise my voice, but it was enough for Catherine. She slowly walked to the hall and closed the front door behind her demonstratively slowly. I don't know what it feels like being on a desert island, but I think in a way it may be easier than being a social outcast. At least the islander knows that people ignore him, not for their own reasons, but because there just isn't anyone around for hundreds or even thousands of kilometers. Who feels more hungry? A person in a prison cell, or the person forced to observe a luxurious banquet? That was super weird. What? Did I lose frames somewhere? It wasn't a lot, but I lost a little bit. It's probably just from app In the Beat It music video, there are no holes. Thanks for breaking the tension, chicken. Go back to your Resident Evil 4. Oh, I know it's true. I've seen the pop-up video. Yeah, where was I? I don't think I was really upset with Catherine. Just found that out today. Learn something new every day. Surprised, disappointed, but not upset. Unfortunately, something like that was to be expected of her, and by doing this, she was pushing the love for that Katya further and further out of my heart. And I was just too tired. However, her words still rang clear in my mind. Too late, I already saw that coming. What exactly had happened between them back then? Catherine wouldn't get mad over nothing, and if she hated Himitsu that much, was Katya even capable of genuine hatred? Not the kind that you would see. What had to have happened to evoke such a strong, baleful emotion in her? I just couldn't imagine Himitsu doing something worthy of it. While thinking about all this, I didn't even notice how I got in school, and I didn't even notice how I got to school by the time the second class started. In reality, I had absolutely no reason to be here, but it wasn't any worse than any other. It wasn't any worse than any other place. And this wasn't even about Arena. Did her threats really matter after my talk with Himitsu's father? And what really did matter? What did I have left in my life? Naturally, Catherine was in a school. I wouldn't be surprised if Himitsu skipped classes as well. I was sitting and looking out the window, unplugged from the rest of the world. The strong autumn wind was mercilessly shaking the trees in the schoolyard. But with the last bits of strength they resisted, not giving up their red and yellow foliage to it. It wouldn't last long, however. By nature's will, they would have come naked and helpless before the first frost and the coming cold. But the wind didn't need those old leaves, blowing is its destiny, and it can't exist otherwise. Perhaps Catherine's destiny was to wreck my life. Michael approached me during the break. God, again? It was hard to guess from his facial expression what he was going to talk about, but I got preliminarily tense. Let's not go over the same thing again. Yeah, I wouldn't exactly call it. Hang on. I wouldn't exactly call him that. I mean, to be fair, I didn't have any interest in Catherine to begin with, even when he started asking. So I was all for it. It was like, go on ahead. I just thought that you had some time to think. Oops, hang on. There we go. His persistence was enviable, but now in particular, this behavior was frankly inappropriate. At least, not here, for everyone to see. Or was he deliberately trying to make me mad? I've already thought it through and told you everything. We've discussed it only a couple days ago. Yes, but I still haven't gotten a clear answer from you. A clear answer? I smirked and flung my hand into the air. The usual level of noise in the classroom became noticeably lower. Do you want a piece of advice? I'll give you one for free today. Run away from her without looking back, otherwise she'll ruin your life the same as she ruined mine. I was stepping on the same rake again. Now, not only was Michael listening to me, but the entire class. Except I couldn't care less. Shall I take that as an affirmative answer? Are we doing the math here? Affirmative, negative, what's the fucking difference? You know what? If you need her so much, take her. I said and quickly walked out of the classroom. Nastiest thing was, and I scolded myself for it without end, and I couldn't even really get mad at Catherine. Even though I had every right to. Any normal person would. Good afternoon, senpai. Someone from a junior grade greeted me politely. How did he know me? And why did he talk to me at all? Didn't everyone at this school know that Nikolai Anakin is a dangerous sociopath? I passed by Himitsu's classroom and looked inside for a moment, but there was no one behind her desk. Fair enough. Afraid of running into Sai, I quickly ran up the stairs, taking them two at a time, and as could be expected, I found myself on the roof. Somebody was sitting on the bench, and I was about to think that it was Kagome, but it wasn't her. Wow, I haven't seen her in a long while. The girl holding back her long blonde hair as if it fluttered in the wind, like a ship's sail in an Alexander Grin novel. I recognized Ellie, but even though I couldn't see her face, I thought she seemed sad, looking into the distance at a massive city from the school's roof, like you'd look into the horizon of the ocean. Oh, that was a long-winded one. Expecting the return of a beloved. It certainly isn't you, jackass. I wonder if she had a boyfriend. I drove those foolish thoughts away and approached the uncrowned queen of the school. I hope I'm not intruding. She raised her head and looked at me surprised. Hoodlum? That's a good nickname for you. Kobayashi-san. I put a semblance of a sarcastic smirk on my face. Actually, my name is Nick. I see. Ellie looked upset, was behaving far less energetically than usual. I'm sorry if I'm prying. Did something happen? Nothing important, just family problems. I understand. Actually, no, I don't. I added immediately and sat down next to her, keeping the distance allowed by decency. I'm alone. Well, I live alone. Is that so? She clearly wasn't in the mood for a chat. By the way, I was at your concert. You play really well. Finally, Ellie brightened up and cast a glance in my direction. Yeah, right. I saw you. You were staring at me the entire concert. You wouldn't let me play. I was there by accident. I just swung by that club on occasion. And what a lucky coincidence that we were playing there at the time. Yes, it was. Just a coincidence, I'll have you know. It happens. Not everything in the world revolves around you and your family. That last part was clearly too much, and Ellie smiled sadly and looked away. Yeah, sure. You're right. It's just, you know. She started, but sighed heavily and went silent. No, you don't. Well, explain then. Here we go again. Sorry, but I really don't feel like it. How many times can you explain the same thing? Would talking really change anything? What an interesting observation. I was constantly boiling in a cauldron filled with painful introspections and regular fights with Himitsu and Catherine. Well, You have your music to distract you. Yeah. For now. I think you should keep doing it. You clearly have a talent. I was staring at the vapor trail left by a plane and answered wistfully. You know, I even envy you in a sense. Well, not because of all this school queen and heiress of the Kobayashi Empire stuff, but because you have something of your own. Something that you do well and something you want to pursue. A calling, I guess, or a life goal. I'm not really good at saying this stuff. Sorry. Finally, I looked at Ellie. She lowered her head and blushed a bit. Everything sounds so easy if I just listen to you. Well, I don't know if it's easy or not. I'm just judging your situation from a perspective of a lay person to say. Who has nothing like that in his life. Maybe that's for the better. Ellie jumped off the bed, shaking her head, golden hair flying side to side, and the faint smell of perfume reaching my nose. It took a considerable effort to hide my embarrassment from this girl. You mean not hide your embarrassment, but the fact that you're inhaling said perfume? Well, okay, hoodlum Nick. See you later. Bye. I responded timidly and remained in my place. I didn't know whether Kobayashi had a real crown, but once a long time ago, I had given one to a little girl, a neighbor of mine. I couldn't get used to the fact that the school year in Japan starts in the spring. After graduating from the primary school at the embassy, I went to a normal secondary school with normal children. Maybe a bit of an elite one. From childhood, Mitsu wanted to be in the same class as me, but her poor health hadn't allowed that. But we ended up in the same school. She was just a grade lower. She then skipped spring and summer semesters due to illness and managed to go to school with me only in the autumn. Don't tell me she's got some underlying condition and she's about to die soon. If that happens, I'm gonna be so mad. Especially because I like Himitsu. Kagome's a close second. Catherine. Yeah. It must have been the end of September as well. Nick-chan. Oh, God. I don't know what would happen if we ended up with Yamaku. Himitsu was pulling at my sleeve. I asked you not to call me that anymore, especially at school. I asked sternly. Okay, she replied sadly and lowered her head. We're adults now. At least I am. So, what should I call you then? I don't know. I thought for a second. This question was more an important one for a child. I have a classmate, Kyosuke. I'll introduce you. And he calls me Nick. Nico, Mitsu uttered in Japanese style. No way, that sounds like the name of a mafia boss. Don Nico. She laughed. You come to me with requests, but you don't ask with respect. You don't even think to use Keigo? I don't know, am I saying that right? Mitsu laughed even harder. Probably not. Actually, what part am I on? I'm on part 7. Probably not. I think it's just gonna be a first run for me on stream. I'll probably go through the other routes on my own, but this is really more of just a one-time run thing. Technically, it was supposed to be done by then because I wanted to make this be like a Valentine's Day thing, and look, it's already almost April. Oops. Nikadono. Well, no need to be that formal. I even grew a bit embarrassed. Then the stress of heavy thinking found reflection on her childish face. Niko-kun? She suggested timidly. I paused. Should do for now. Well, then you should also call me something like something like that. Like what? Ohimitsu-sama. I listen and obey my mistress Ohimitsu-sama. We're approaching the school, and more I notice Mitsu's little shoulders tremble. He was clearly very nervous, but was trying not to show it. A yellow leaf fell at my feet, then another one, and another. I started to pick them up. Nico, she said slowly, as if she was trying to taste this new word. What are you doing? You'll see soon. When I gathered enough leaves, I took a fishing line out of my bag and began to string the leaves on it. Why do you have fishing line in your bag? Alright, whatever. You can find anything in a little rascal's bag, and sometimes things weirder than a fishing line. Should I even ask? When I finished, the resulting composition mostly resembled a washing line with colorful rags hung on it. Every princess should have a crown. I barely managed to mount this little something on Mitsu's head. The leaves stubbornly refused to stand vertically, and following the laws of physics, were falling, draping over her head. In the end, Mitsu resembled a bald old man with hair only remaining on their temples, nape, and also forehead. Oh, it's so cute! Mitsu sang, opened her bag, and took a little mirror out of it. Are you sure you want to see this? I said in a theatrically serious voice and slowly took a few steps aside. She looked at herself in the mirror attentively and smiled. Smiled so cutely that for a moment it seemed that the crown made of leaves shone with all the colors of a golden autumn. I got embarrassed, and not because I was seeing a beautiful girl, which had happened to me before, but because that girl suddenly turned out to be Mitsu. Alright, let's go. I habitually took her by the hand and quickly walked to the school. Nico, she called me in a more confident voice. And if someone asks, you'll say that you're my sister, got it? My juvenile maximalism was still there, after all. Nico. And we have different surnames because you were adopted. Or I was. Whatever. And that's why we don't look alike. Nico. But that's only if someone asks. Otherwise, we don't even know each other at all. And you're a grade lower than me. If you ask me, I don't understand it. I don't understand all this division and all, at all. Ni-chan, Mitsu said loudly at last. What? She pointedly looked at our latched hands. Yeah. I instantly released her hand and felt blood rush to my face. It's just a habit. A habit we should ditch too. You're taking this so seriously. She giggled. It's because it's vital to start off on the right foot. Understood, Mitsu said solemnly and pouted. And take this mess off your head already. She carefully removed the crown and put it in her bag. You could just throw it away, I muttered. Why? It'll be a reminder that I'm a princess and you're my prince. Are you starting this again? I pinched her side hard. Ouch! Nick! Kyosuke's merry greeting reached us from afar. Alright, here it comes. I love that it just popped out of existence. Yeah. That crown must have long dried out and turned to dust. Although I wasn't sure Himitsu kept it somewhere in a wardrobe for a long time after. It can sometimes seem that entire segments of life, hours, days, years, are erased from memory. But if you really try, you can always recall them. I sat on the roof for about an hour, reminiscing. Or perhaps that's merely how it seemed to me, because the hour hand was stubbornly approaching 2 o'clock in the afternoon. My stomach growled, and I returned to sinful earth, now with more than just my thoughts. It was too late to go to the canteen. Unfortunately, my funds were quite limited, so I returned to the classroom, quietly packed up my bag, and, ignoring Kyosuke, left school. On the way home, I was thinking about Mai and Himitsu's childhood. She probably wasn't a real fairy tale princess to me, felt more like me being Peter Pan and her Wendy. Wendy returned to the real world, and I forever remained in Neverland, where children don't grow up. Lost in thought, I was almost run over by a car. You should have! Sorry. The old empty house welcomed me coldly as usual, with its silence broken only by the creaks of floorboards, dust dancing in the sunlight that reached the kitchen from the garden, and by now, familiar atmosphere of loneliness. I didn't expect Himitsu to come today, and didn't hope for a taste of cooking, but I was starving, having not had lunch or even breakfast. Luckily, there was a lot left after Catherine's visit. The bartender recalled a thing I cooked, kolya stew, or kolyan chowder, as the abundance of soy sauce made the dish pretty watery. Not that I cared. At least it was edible. After washing the dishes, I turned the TV on and pointlessly stared at the screen. All of my thoughts were focused on Himitsu. I seemed to have forgotten Catherine completely, and when I did remember her, I felt disgust. I didn't know what she blamed Himitsu for, but Himitsu had the full right to blame her for the situation we found ourselves in. I recalled more and more memories of our childhood and the events that happened relatively recently. I replayed the memories in my mind fondly, studying each of them for a good while, and then going to the next. I guess that's how projectionists rotated the handles on their projectors, carefully, trying not to damage the film. But then the movies would come to an end and give way to a harsh reality. In the silence of the house, I could clearly hear a car drive into Mitsu's yard. Ryunosuke seemed to have come home early. Actually, it was none of my business. Not anymore. I felt a lump in my throat. Too much connected us for our relationship to be completely broken in a single moment, even if for a good reason. And it wasn't only for the fact that we grew up together and that Himitsu loved me. Not only the serious matters. The little things that made up our daily life were equally important. Even the fights and grievances, tears and sorrow, the diseases and hardships. There you go with the diseases. I swear, if Himitsu's like terminally ill with something, it was important that we had gone through all that together, hand in hand. And I could never imagine that one day Himitsu wouldn't be around. For her, it was love, a self-explanatory feeling. I had always considered it friendship, but the past weeks had turned it all upside down. I heard voices coming from outside. I couldn't understand anything, but it was clearly Ryunosuke talking loudly as if he were having an argument with someone. Then I heard the shrieking wheels of a leaving car. I couldn't remember Himitsu's mother at all, but I'd hoped that Himitsu inherited her personality and not her father's. It was weird, but the whole day I barely thought about Ryunosuke-san's threats. After all, I was the one who screwed everything up. Of course, Catherine had helped, but it was in my power not to allow her to enter my house, or at least kick her out in the evening and not let her stay overnight. Suddenly, I felt painfully lonely. There were several kinds of loneliness, and the one I was experiencing was the nastiest. It was a loneliness I'd brought on myself. Of course, I could call Kyosuke, but I was a bit ashamed since I've been ignoring him a lot these days. And I couldn't even think of calling Michael. Who else did I have left? Himitsu? Catherine? Do not call Catherine, I swear to God. No thanks. I've already called her enough to make me want to vomit. I jumped off the chair and started walking around the kitchen in circles. The evening was slowly coming and I desperately wanted for this day to end. I just physically couldn't stand being alone with my thoughts, so I'd washed some clothes, vacuumed the entire house, wiped the dust off the wardrobes, went through the boxes, cleaned the kitchen, and took a shower. I finished almost at midnight, and exhausted, fell straight to bed. Felt a bit dizzy, and my entire body was taken by pleasant fatigue. How did Mitsu even handle this on a daily basis? She should have become an athlete. No, you're just out of shape. I recalled Mitsu's slim body and got noticeably aroused. Jesus Christ. My brain was pierced by a sudden thought. I wanted her. I wanted her as a woman. Not only sexually, like I'd always wanted Catherine, but entirely and undividedly. I didn't want to give her to anybody or let her go anywhere. Such a pity that it was too late. I rolled over and covered my head with a pillow. You don't know what you got until you lose it. Was that the saying? Even though I had spent almost my entire life in Japan, I still felt like a Russian with all the pros and cons. I guess I never adapted fully. But then, why did I always feel so good with Himitsu? She was much more Japanese than Russian. And at the same time, I was struggling with Catherine and Michael, people with an inherently European mentality. It was most likely about the upbringing, not the place of origin. Applied dialects at 1 in the morning. That was so typical of me. No, seriously. I would have enrolled in the philosophical faculty of University of Tokyo if they accepted me, and if I had the money. I felt so pathetic that it even made me laugh. I need water. And after the laugh came the tears. I couldn't even remember the last time I cried. And after that, heavy, as if delirious, oblivion. What time is it? Actually, yeah, we'll go ahead and stop here. We'll stop here for the night, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow. This guy is causing me to drink. This guy's causing me. I'm gonna save. Although if I made this a loss in the sauce, I probably wouldn't get very far in the reading. At least we're slowly progressing back into the side of Himitsu, despite of what happened. How much longer is this game anyway? Lost in the Sauce visual novel. I don't know, but it feels like we're getting close. It feels like it was like something's about to come to fruition. Although I feel like it's going to end with somebody dying. I really think somebody's going to die. But we'll find out. Well, that's happened. But yeah, I think probably one more session. I'm debating whether or not I should look it up just to see if there's hang on. I don't think I even got any like trophies or whatever for this game. Achievements 1 out of 18. Jeez. Okay. Well, it's nothing about progress. It's just the endings. And Jesus, everybody has at least two bad endings. And Catherine Hamitsu and Himitsu have 3 bad endings. So this is not looking good for me. I feel like this is gonna end up being like a bad ending for Himitsu, and that's not good. But yeah, we'll continue more of this tomorrow. That being said, I did do a whole lot of speed tests before starting, and it actually has not dipped. Knock on wood. If it does it again tomorrow and Wednesday, which I'll get into a little bit more on that in a second, if it is consistent for 3 days in a row, I'm going to go ahead and go back to my usual start time at 11. But yeah, here's hoping. That being said, I will not be streaming on Wednesday because my nephews will be spending the night here, so my streams this week is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So more Love, Money, and Rock and Roll tomorrow, and then when we come back on Thursday, it's going to be more of the Resident Evil 4 remake. That'll continue on to the following Friday. So yeah, that's the plan. And yeah, I'm going to keep a lookout on my speed during that usual hour that I've been having trouble with. If it has actually improved, we're going to go back to the old schedule, because I know it is a bit much to be starting at midnight. But yeah, that'll be the plan. Thank you all for joining me tonight. Here's hoping that we actually get to some kind of an ending tomorrow, because I know everybody's itching for me to not only continue with more Resident Evil 4, but also start Dead Space. So yeah, it will come sooner or later. Although I think most of you are probably saying sooner. Hopefully sooner. Anyways, links down below. The first... Oh, I did not spell that right. There we go. Links down below. The first one will take you to the Lazy League Discord. There you can be able to find the rest of us, such as Oh Hey Mike K, the Batgwin, and Gumdolph, as well as many others in our circle of friends, such as Rainarchy, Warwick Zero, Shadow Knight, 98 Tough Love, C Plus Content, and many others. Come hang out with us. Come be lazy with us. A lot of fun stuff that goes on. The second link will take you to the sister site for this channel, which I have finally updated, especially the archive. I'll get that in a second. But you can find more info on other upcoming streams that I have planned for the future, including my continuation of BioShock, Mass Effect, my finish of the revisit of Metal Gear, my second runs of Metroid, including Other M, revisit, my fusion run of Samus Returns, and my hard mode speed run one shot, hopefully, of Metroid Dread. But along with many others, and again, you can also catch my archive, which I have finally updated, so it is up to date now, of everything that I've done before for the past, I think, 9 years. Yeah. And if you got any questions, comments, concerns that you would like me to know about, or any suggestions that you might have for me for future Let's Plays or Retro Nights, head on over to the contact page and shoot them out to me over there. Also, scroll down below or off to the side, depending which platform you're watching from, on Twitch, to catch many other streamers that aren't affiliated with the lazy streamers that I personally like to watch and follow. Check them all out if you can. They're all great. And again, thank you for joining me tonight for this session of Love, Money, Rock and Roll. Let's try and push to finish, hopefully, tomorrow. We'll see. It's probably going to be a bad end. I feel like it's going to be a bad end. It's totally going to be a bad end. Anyways, y'all have a good night. Take care. Love and hype. Life is dramatic, definitely. Weird. And our main character is a jackass. Good night, everyone.